Dale Teckel, happy Michigan deer hunter every day,
every
365.
Day. Awesome
I'm on
the
phone today with Gung Ho. That's the only kind of people I know. Gung Ho, the Sandys, Cassifas. Gung Ho, Nebraska deer hunters. They can shoot $2. They shoot monsters every year. Iowa, they shoot $3. They shoot monsters every year. Illinois, $2. They shoot. Would you cut it out? If you want to shoot antler point restricted deer, then wait for one. Or do more work and go where they live. I mean, what's some of the greatest deer hunters ever said? If you want to shoot a trophy buck, you got to go where the trophy bucks are. And in Michigan, there's trophy bucks in every county.
Right.
And guys are killing them in every county. And again, what's a trophy? My trophy is a backstrapper within 20 yards looking the other way. That's my trophy deer. And I think when I talk to my buddies in Iowa and Nebraska and Illinois and Ohio and West Virginia and Florida, up until a few years ago, you could shoot a buck a day, no tags in Florida. The deer were just fine because almost nobody, in fact, nobody shot a buck a day. But it's an opportunity. I think here it is in a nutshell, and I've said this before, but it has to be repeated. So wildlife management is the following. What will the resource produce? What is the surplus annually of that resource, particularly with whitetail deer and other, seasonal critters that breed in the fall? I would recommend breeding all year. That breed in the fall and produce in the spring and optimum conditions for the summer so that there are optimum numbers of that resource come fall where we have a moral scientific obligation to harvest the resource. Why has that sentence never been uttered in a school in America? Right. So, what does the resource produce? How do we manage it for optimal populations? I mean, optimal, and there's a conflict because every hunter I know wants to see more deer.
Right.
The insurance companies don't. The agriculture community, of which I'm a part of, they don't want to see that many deer. The highway department doesn't want to see that many deer, and obviously the DNR doesn't want to see that many deer. But the wildlife families want to see more deer. Now you got to manage that so you don't get selfish against the agriculture and against the highway dangers. I mean, this is so simple. And we don't want our insurance premiums to go up. So there is a proven optimal level of the resource that we can optimize the family hours of recreation for the participation thereof, where they're observing, managing, and then in the fall harvesting and killing venison, so that during the dead of winter, I've done this on a number of videos and podcasts and on Spirit of the Wild TV. I think I'm the only guy that says this kind of stuff because it isn't about mass. I don't care who you are. It's not about mass. Mass should only be a consideration on Sunday when you go to Mass. So I don't care about mass. I care about balance and venison and fun. I think fun first, mostly fun. I want fun, which means a lot of deer and a lot of turkeys and a lot of squirrels and a lot of pheasants, a lot of quail, a lot of doves. Dove, the #1 game bird in the world. You can't vote the #1 game bird in the world to be a songbird unless you're an absolute liar. Anyhow. I don't digress, I progress. Optimal, healthy resource populations that don't damage agriculture, highway, disease if it's overpopulated. We've seen that at the Brown County State Park in Indiana that I finally opened at bow season because they destroyed it was a moonscape. And you could walk up to a deer and kick it. They were so sick and so emaciated. So I'm an activist. And we have proven scientifically, Richard P. Smith, the greatest conservationist, Pete, let that dog in, the greatest conservationist in the world, that a 1 buck rule versus a 2, let that one in too.
That's Sadie in there too.
Sadie Dilly, hi. These are the most important people in the world.
Yeah.
Here comes the most important people in the world. They don't have a squirrel bag limit. That it's been proven scientifically that a 2 buck rule in Michigan does not affect trophy class, if that's what you want, or family hours of recreation, except to attract more family hours of recreation. Now, if I can, in those areas, and the DNR doesn't know, there is no scientific information available in Lansing. Your computer screen isn't a source of meaningful science. I don't care how many computer models you investigate, Chad. The only wildlife science that matters is in wildlife science areas, which is in woods and swamps and forests and marshes and fens and wild ground. So Michigan does not have to reduce the 2-buck bag limit. Only the hunters who walk wild ground on a consistent basis, not just the weekends, with all due respect. If that's all you got, go for the weekends. If you only have a couple days scouting before November 15th, God bless you. But there's a lot of us that walk deer ground all the time. And we would be a better source of deer numbers and turkey numbers. So a state, you have to draw a tag for the spring, but you can shoot 60 one a day in the fall. Who are these people that make these rules? Bad people. So I would encourage those that see a lot of deer and a lot of dead deer on the highway, Washtenaw County, Lenawee County, Jackson County, Kent County, probably all over the state.
Right.
Certainly Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County. Again, there should be no bag limit, no tags. Well, that's outrageous, Ted, isn't it? It is outrageous because we're scrambling for damage control because we weren't honest enough to have quality control. Quality control is knowing the numbers, knowing the habitat capability, knowing the intersecting highways and slaughter zones by vehicles, and making those decisions before it becomes a liability. So in those areas where you hardcore hunters walk and see too many does, please shoot more does. Soup kitchens and homeless shelters and charities would love that venison. Shemaine and I donate tons. We shoot a lot of does. And here's another boots on the ground information, not an opinion, not a guess, not a hunch, not a supposition. I shoot lots of does on my wild swamp in Jackson County every year, 40, 50 a year. Well, that's a game hog. Well, tell that to the soup kitchens that the game hog provided them pure protein. The critics are brain dead. So instead of Ted Nugent harvesting and killing enough does to balance the herd and provide sacred protein for soup kitchens, they would rather our tax dollars went to sharpshooters. These people are insane. So on my grounds, I stop shooting does after I shoot a lot because as I put pressure, I don't see them as much because they get smart. They don't like guitar players with sharp sticks. And so I back off on shooting does. This is a fascinating example because I might be the only guy that does this. And so I back off on shooting more does and I wait for an older buck or a desirable buck that only I can choose to fill my 2 buck tags. And then I got a high fence place where I have to shoot X amount of deer, which is just as much fun, maybe even more fun because I get to shoot more. So more hunting isn't more fun than less hunting? No, more hunting would be more fun than less hunting. I have to say these things.
I think a lot is, like I said, with communication with your neighbors and other landowners.
I talked to Rick Johnson, who's hunting turkeys in like 10 states. He's my neighbor over on Wheeler Road in Jackson County, who owns part of the swamp that we celebrate. And he shot my giant non-typical that I clipped in the brisket last year. Rick, congratulations. Darn it. But I'm happy for him because I should have killed that deer, but I shot low. Anyhow, so I stopped shooting does because I want to err on the side, because I like to see a lot of deer.
Right.
And so I go, well, maybe I should stop shooting does. So I stop, and then I come back to Texas in December, and Toby and Jim are calling me right now and going, we're putting in food plots, and we've never seen more deer. There's more deer than we've ever seen. So I go, okay, I got to quit worrying about shooting too many does, and I need to shoot more does. Because people want the venison. Right. The land needs balance. I'd like to make a little money on soybeans and corn. So I can put it back into food plots. So there's a balance that is not bureaucratic determined.
2 things I've heard.
It's conservation boots on the ground determined. So if there's too many does in your area, then please, instead of having the government, you gotta earn your second buck. No, just shoot some more does. It's fun. Broadside, good arrow, good bullet. It's fun. Shoot that doe. And if you're waiting for a trophy buck, you have to take more vacation time during the rut. So there's a lot of simple recipes and procedures that will provide those personal desires of what a trophy is and what is fun and what makes you happy in the deer woods. Yeah. But I would never say, here's how I hunt, and you got to hunt like me. No, here's my limit for you. No, we didn't. Like even goofballs in the left lane, they can stay in the left lane for a couple miles before I ram them. But I would never cause them to go my speed limit, so don't make me go your speed limit.
Right.
So choice. And you know what I think, Dale, and I think you've discovered this as the proprietor thereof of Michigan Deer Hunters, what great, thoughtful, smart, knowledgeable people our fellow deer hunters are. Right. I would rather stop the average deer hunter at Shootbeck Sporting Goods and go, what do you think the policy would be? I'd rather listen to him than Chad Stewart.
Yeah, I get a lot of input on my page from hunters across the state and really across the country, and it's always interesting hearing people's input, and it's just
from people who actually live the life.
Yeah, they're walking
not
the land.
People that go out opening day and then play cribbage the rest of the week, which I think is awesome. If you just want to go November 15th and play cribbage, in fact, don't even have to hunt, just play cribbage.
And I know we were on the
that's your choice.
Yeah, we were on the topic of just right now, like seeing deer. Hunters want to see deer, and that goes back to what you were always talking about is with the baiting, where you're able to. A lot of guys or women go out on a weekend, they get 1 or 2 days, and they want to see deer, and maybe they're hunting some state land, and that just gives them an opportunity to.
You know, when I was growing up in the 60s deer hunting, it was an orange army.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome. It was a traffic jam up 23 and up I-75 all the way to the straight. That was exciting. Just looking and waving at people in orange hats, and people with quivers of arrows in the back of their station. Yeah. It was that was part of the joy.
It was.
But on the Manistee National Forest, when they started increasing doe harvests, a lot of guys stopped hunting because they weren't seeing deer. But let me tell you, I know some gung-ho guys that go into that Big Bear Swamp over by Free Soil, and they pack a lunch and they walk, and they go where Lewis and Clark wouldn't have sent Sacagawea. They go deep in there and they see bear and they shoot giant bucks. How they drag them out of there, I don't know, because you can't get a 4-wheeler or a 3-wheeler. You can't get a unit. They're just strong. They're harder, more dedicated, and maybe younger and stronger. But those trophy conditions, they exist throughout the state, throughout the world. You just can't go and sit on the same stump your dad did in 1965 if there's been, and there is, variations of habitat manipulation. Oh, there's a parking lot next to your stump now. There's a factory where some evil bureaucrat put wind turbines and solar panels in your deer woods.
Yeah, just last year, I was talking to one of the Hall of Fame through Michigan, and Richard P. Smith, actually, and he was telling me, he goes, a lot of times you can look back to photos from maybe the 60s, 70s, and got a buck pole there and a whole bunch of nice bucks and everything on there.
And a lot of nice year-and-a-half-old
bucks.
But
he goes, you'll flash back to now, and he goes, what I tell people sometimes is to look behind the buck pole. Look at the habitat.
Absolutely.
What changed there?
Yeah.
And that plays a big role. Yeah.
And it has changed. And when they manipulate grouse habitat for young aspen growth, thank you, where's the money from those trees that we own? No, okay, so you're manipulating improved grouse habitat, good concept, but you're cutting down trees and selling them. Those are our trees. You owe me. Or there needs to be an accounting, needs to have an audit. So I think, I would hope that more and more conservation families in Michigan start raising more hell. And in most instances, start raising some hell, start asking questions, start calling your senator and your congressman, your governor's office, your game department, know your game warden and talk to him and ask him if he would give a ticket to a little girl whose shot spread hit a hen, instead of just giving him a piece of paper to let her have the hen since she called in and reported the hen. I mean, there's so many examples of just unconscionable abuse of power by game wardens out there. And only the guilty need to feel guilty. But the only good game warden in America is a whistleblower. When your buddy takes a pistol away from an old hunter on opening day, because the Second Amendment isn't a felony. The Second Amendment can't be a felony. Well, there's laws. It's an illegal law. That deer hunter has the right from God to keep and bear arms. And those game wardens that I talk to up in Gaylord, up in Grayland, up in Clare, up in Baldwin, they go, yeah, there's some abusers in our midst. And I go, well, then turn them in. Yeah. Get them out of the sport. Get them out of here. Get a conservation, science-based law enforcement agent to become a game warden, not somebody who's drunk on power and probably an animal rights person. And if you take a pistol away from a deer hunter on opening day, you're an anti-gunner. Not only, and you're violating your oath. I know that's quite a hill to climb because, well, we have laws. It's illegal. It's called an infringement. And there's a document that outlines my guaranteed rights from God that says shall not be infringed. And you're infringing. And if you come on my property and infringe, I'm going to arrest you. Well, you can't do that. Yeah, well, watch me. Yeah. We the people have chucked our balls in at the door, and we just mindlessly obey infringements and laws against Proposition G that says all game laws have to be based on sound science. None of them are. None of them. So we need to take Michigan back, and at this point in time, I know a lot of people have different opinions about who should be governor, but I think the most conservative, electable Republican is John James. We have some great Republican candidates for governor of Michigan, some great guys. Tom Leonard would have been a great governor. Kevin Rinke would have been a great people. Yeah. Real conservatives, real Christians, real conservationists. But we have to pick the most conservative that is electable. And Michigan hunters, get everybody you know to fix Michigan, and we start with John James as governor of Michigan. He's a good man. He's an Army veteran. He believes in sound science conservation. He will help us fight to get science back into wildlife policies in Michigan. So that's where it starts, voting. And also go to hunternation.org. We are the only organization that contacts licensed hunters who heretofore, vast majority, never voted. But they'll complain about policies that they could have voted and fixed. Right. So let's vote and fix. hunternation.org, and get everybody you know to get behind a real Christian, constitutional, conservative conservationist. John James to fix the embarrassment of the state of Michigan going down the toilet at the hands of Gretchen Whitmer and the drag queen story hour team. Oh, how embarrassing. So it is politics. Well, Nugent's too much into politics. Really, you can be too much into experimenting in self-government? I experiment too much? How feeble can you be not to know that all our freedoms are based on we the people fighting in politics for those rights? Mm-hmm. That's the American dream, fighting for constitutional accountability. And those that don't vote, Gretchen Whitmer would like to thank you. Maybe she killed your grandma.
Yeah. And these are the people, too, who you're electing are appointing people in this position. That's why...
Appointing people who give them money. Yeah. You get to buy your position. That's why. Like here in Texas, people can just buy whatever the position they want from Governor Abbott. How embarrassing. Governor Abbott, how embarrassing. Texas Parks and Wildlife, what a bunch of horrible anti-hunting goons. I'm talking to you, Texas Parks and Wildlife. You people are jackbooted thugs that I believe you're all animal rights people. And you game wardens who came from a conservation family, how can you enforce regulations that are anti-property rights, anti-science, anti-wildlife, anti-hunting, anti-freedom? And it's rampant, all 50 states. Yeah. I think the only good state for wildlife management is Arkansas. A guy named Bill Jones, who's a diehard hunter, fisherman, trapper, and he makes sure that the rules of wildlife management in Arkansas, under the great governor, the best governor in America, Miss Huckabee, Sarah Huckabee. So they voted in real representation in Arkansas. Michigan, I beg of you, let's vote for John James. He will get us back on science-based wildlife regulations, And Michigan needs that desperately. And thank you for all you do, because I think
Appreciate it.
you have this megaphone. What's more important than the heading Michigan deer hunters? Because those are
Such a representation.
conservationists.
Exactly.
Yeah, the best.
And that's
of
why, I
them.
mean, there's so many hunters out there, and that's why I've heard in the past, I mean, I get comments where it's like, well, I don't want you to talk about politics.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God, what hunting
But
is politics?
But that's the thing, though. I mean, it's like whether you like politics or not, it's
no,
something you
if
have
you
to...
don't like politics, you're an idiot. Because your freedom is based on your activism in the political arena.
Right.
How you must, if you're not into politics, you must have graduated from an American school because they brainwashed you and turned you into a sheep. Everything is based on politics.
Yep.
Everything. Yes, you love it's. My dogs are based on squirrel politics. I love you. So I beg of you, if you're not participating in this sacred, blood-paid-for experiment in self-government, you're in the liability column. If you don't vote God, family, country, private property rights, law and order, freedom, work ethic, self-defense, if you don't vote those basic righteous principles, you're in the liability column. To be in the asset column, you have to be a hellraiser. The American dream was based on people meeting King George's punks at the Concord Bridge when they came to take our guns and shooting them in the face. Well, that's radical. You think? Well, violence is never the answer. Well, sure it is. At the Concord Bridge, we like to shoot people taking our guns in the face. That's appropriate. Or if someone's raping your daughter, shoot him. Well, violence is never the answer. Well, I can give you 1,000 examples where violence is the answer. If somebody wants to take your car with a knife, shoot him. Violence. Out-violence the violent guy. I don't believe in repeat offenders. I believe in dead offenders. Well, that's radical. Thank you very much. Or let me put it this way, those people who are criticizing me. Bend over, Rover. It's so sad. Yeah. So the enemy isn't the enemy. The enemy is us. So let's quit being our own enemy.
Let me ask you one question.
Sure, you may ask
before
me
we
one
end here.
question.
So, news recently, within a day or so, there's now talk in Michigan where we were a lot of talk with OBR, and now there's talk of like earn a second buck. What are your thoughts on that topic right there?
I don't have thoughts. I have science. You see, I'm a cocky guy, but I'm not more cocky than God's nature. I know how God's nature operates, so I serve God's nature.
Yep.
And the science is in going from a $2 state to a $1 state. And again, Richard Smith, the ultimate source of wildlife management, documentation, evidence, research, and knowledge. Richard Smith, up there in the UP. He has studied these things. For example, Area 452, where they banned baiting to mitigate bovine tuberculosis, was 38 years. No difference. We banned baiting to get rid of TB. Same example, same number of TB. That has nothing to do because the deer are licking each other. While we're talking, they're licking each other. All the deer in the world are licking each other right now. You can't stop them. So the study in Area 452 where the bovine TB occurred, they banned baiting, no difference. So cut it out. Banning baiting is just an inconvenience and a detract and a spooker. It spooks hunters out of the sport because we like to see deer, and baiting increases the observation. Especially we all work so hard, especially me. I work hard so I can hunt every day, and if you don't see deer, you're not going to go hunting.
Right.
So the bait ban has been proven nonsense, and the $1 rule has been proven nonsense. It won't have any effect on you trophy hunters shooting a big deer. It won't have any effect on harvest rates, but it will have an effect to make people go, I'm not going to hunt this year. I hear it all the time. Or just as bad / good, I'm not going to buy a license. I'm just going to shoot a deer.
What's your thought, though? They're talking about now a possibility of a and earn a second buck.
Well,
So
I've earned enough second bucks for a lifetime. I shoot so many does.
So they're basically saying you're gonna shoot a buck or doe and then a doe to get the second buck tag.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I would rather the guys made a choice to shoot more does in those areas where there are a lot of does. But you can't make a guy shoot a doe in an area that is over harvested or where the winter severity index, WSI, anybody know what that means? Winter severity index. Why would he have to shoot a doe in an area that is low on does?
Right.
So,
and I have heard that a lot from a lot of areas.
I mean, I'm just a guitar player, but I know that. It's nonsense. I don't know why they can't see that the non-science regulations has been a big part of lack of participation. And so they claim they want more participation. So we see that this system of regulations has reduced participation. So let's have more regulations so we can further reduce participation. It's like people who say, well, gun-free zones. That's where the most innocent people are killed. And the anti-gun people want more gun-free zones, which means they want more dead innocent people. This is not my opinion. This is irrefutable science and evidence. So I would like to have, now I have some good ideas. I start September 1 with the bow and arrow and go all the way to March 1. And again, not many guys, well, it's too warm. Then don't go. Because in September, it's the same temperature as October. I don't know where these people live. But if you don't want to go, here's a good idea. Don't. But if you do want to go, here's a good idea. Go. September 1, bow and arrow, because the fawns are independent. And attraction for more participation. And the goal of shooting more does and reducing populations where the guy in the tree stand will determine what the population is to some degree. I mean, you're sitting in the same tree is not going to determine much. Right. But when you talk to your buddies at camp, you can determine, well, I didn't see any deer. I didn't see any deer. Well, then we probably shouldn't shoot a doe.
Right. I think communication is so important.
Yes, and it's alive and well, but not in Lansing.
Right. Yeah.
So I would go bow and arrow, Fred Bear's dream, quiet early archery, September 1 all the way to March 1. And hunt to your desires. If you want to shoot a big buck, wait for one, work harder and find one. And if you want to shoot a backstrapper, shoot that backstrapper. And in your area, and I know guys will self-regulate. Are there a couple of numbnuts out there that are just shoot? I think it's inconsequential. They shouldn't be doing that unless you're utilizing that sacred venison. But gun season should start right now. November 15th is almost sacred. But if we really wanted to attract more participation, maybe a Saturday opener would make more sense. I fought for that in Pennsylvania, and we got that. Mm-hmm. And it's increasing participation, which is the goal. Right. And convenience factor for families. It certainly isn't the Monday after the Thanksgiving holidays. That's when everybody goes back to work. And that's what it used to be in Pennsylvania. Okay. And then they weren't allowed to hunt on Sunday in Pennsylvania. I got a hold of Josh Shapiro, the governor, and we finally got that thrown out. To think that a man could tell another man what he does on his own farm on Sunday in November is just an atrocity of power abuse. No man has that right. That is so non-science, so non-freedom. So anyhow, and then the gun season, I think the gun season, you can get what you need to get done in 10 days. Right now it's 2 weeks, that's fine, or 2 weeks, whatever you want. I only, and again, I would never tell anybody else what to do, but I start with my gun. I usually use my 10mm handgun on November 15th, and I go back to the bow and arrow. But to each his own. But that window of opportunity, if everybody in Michigan thought they needed 2 weeks for gun hunting, because I know that after opening day or the opening weekend and Thanksgiving weekend, those are the only real hardcore days of hunting. So I don't think we're using 15 days in the gun season. But as an attraction, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, because there are a lot of people that, just are limited on days off. And
so in some states, they go, well, in Iowa, you shoot big bucks because there's no guns during the rut. Well, in Kansas, there is. In fact, Kansas starts with a muzzleloader September 1st. And they're shooting monstrosities. It's awesome, if that's what you want. And in Kansas, in Nebraska, the gun season is right in the rut. So I don't think there's any science to they go, well, we shoot big bucks in Iowa because there's no guns during the rut. No, you shoot big bucks in Iowa because people saw these bucks were getting killed in the 60s, and so they're not going to shoot this guy because you see this guy. And because there's nowhere near the pressure in Iowa that there is in other states, that those 2-year-olds get to be 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Then you got the mad scientists like Lee and Tiffany who don't shoot them until they're 7. You people are strange, and I love you people. So choice, but there's no science that supports an improved herd with 1 buck. There is no science. Even in Ohio or in Texas here, there's 1 buck county, 2 buck county, 3 buck counties. And I got buddies all the time complaining, yeah, I shot my 1 buck and all I see is giant bucks every day, but I can't shoot anymore. Well, those Texas Parks and Wildlife haven't walked that county in 100 years. Well, it's a 1 buck county. Okay, it's 1 buck. Well, you have, based on what?
Right.
It's under-harvested, underutilized. I got neighbors here with thousands of acres of no hunting. I love you people. I love how you grow big deer next door to me. And then I put out whitetail products gone wild and sugar beets, and they come to my property. But there's all those different elements.
Right. Yeah.
So they got to legalize baiting. They got to have doe harvest based on population dynamics with real eyewitness boots on the ground information.
Yeah.
And I would go either way, because November 15th is as exciting as it is. It wouldn't matter what day the opener was. That would be my exciting day.
Right.
If it was a Saturday after the 15th or whatever, that would be my exciting gun day. And I think most guys, we got to be careful with tradition. Tradition isn't a day on the calendar as much as it is that time of year, the instinct to hunt,
right.
The instinct to provide for your family and be a conservation steward for balanced wildlife. I think that's way more of a powerful instinct than a day or a date.
Yeah.
But whatever Michigan deer hunters, which I understand you have a connection with, whatever the Michigan deer hunters would.
Yeah, I mean, I think people do love their tradition, but I think it's just really. And that goes back to letting people know, let the NRC and stuff know. I mean, send your emails, attend meetings, and let your voice be heard. And that's
especially if they would call me back, but they don't call me back. Are you afraid? Are you afraid of truth, logic, and common sense that the guitar player knows more than you do about wildlife? And it's embarrassing, isn't it? It's so stupid. I wrote Wango Tango, and I meant it. And I know more about wildlife than anybody at the DNR. I spend more time with deer than all of them combined at the deer. Well, I got this science on my computer. That's not deer. Those aren't deer. That's not science. It's electronic modeling. You got to wear out at least 3 pairs of boots a year to keep up with my wildlife knowledge. Well, Nugent's bragging again. Yeah, I'm proud. I play killer guitar licks, and I have a beautiful family and my best hunting dogs in the world, and I know more about wildlife than game departments. Yeah, it's reality. Yeah. What did you say earlier that, when the game departments try to tell me about wildlife, that'd be like a gay saxophone player telling me how to play guitar.
Well, I appreciate you sitting down with us again. I know you had called me this morning and had some more stuff.
Here's the most fun thing. Whenever I use humor, it really makes idiots angry because they don't have a sense of humor or a sense of people. A sense of campfires. I mean, if you're offended by anything I say, you must have never spent a minute at a campfire. Because at campfires with the burping and farting and sneezing and nasty comments and obscenities, I don't know how you'd survive. Right? Am I right? I mean, relax.